Oh, there we go. Now, what I love is that I'll say millennials, and I'll do this all over the world, and immediately people will say entitled, lazy. I'll hear a lot worse, and then I have to remind them, you do know there's millennials sitting right next to you, right? And what I find about this topic is that people will talk about it. If I put any other form of diversity out there and I said, what comes to mind, you would close your mouth. No one would talk. We need to be talking about Gen Z. Leaders today are spending too much time on millennials, and it oftentimes is too late. Now, the theory behind generational differences is that each generation has its own events and conditions that shape them during their formative years. So because they experience these events and conditions, they adopt their own generational personality that they then take with them into every single life stage. Now, a lot of CEOs will say to me, oh, I'm going to wait to get to know Gen Z. And what they're really saying is, I'm going to wait till they become a lot more like me. And it just never happens. We become more entrenched in our generational personalities as we age. We hit the same life stages.
Did that study question Gen Zers on their preferences in an in-office environment, rather than working from home or anywhere else besides in an office?
What we struggled with is they didn't see a difference, because if I could call you on FaceTime, I'm at the office, we're talking. Face-to-face with screen-to-screen for them. So we had a hard time helping them understand was that you have to be in an office, I think, but I'm working and I was at that meeting. So if everyone just went back to their office and I just turned mine off, what does that matter? They just couldn't get past this idea. So what that's really done in a lot of ways, it's really changed this notion of culture. We often think of culture as the four walls, what paint we have on the walls, maybe some inspirational posters, where now your culture is also online. What is that culture and how's that conversation go? So that's what we really see them pushing, and some companies that are doing some really cool things is stop, trying to define that the office is a physical place and more look at culture and how we connect people.
I just had a question about how do you envision employers coping with the Gen Z today when there are so many employers that require standard job hours and you have a whole host of new kids that don't want to do that?
It's not that they don't want to work hard. Let me be clear as day, because they would be the hardest working generation I have seen since the baby boomers. So I want to make sure I'm not implying that. They just want to work differently. So a lot of times we have to explain to them, you have to be here for these hours. And then they're going to say to you, why? And if you're like, well, that's the way it's always been done, then I think the issue is more with you. If it's like, no, and here's why, because a customer walks through their door and we can't have a robot there, we need you there, they start to see and they understand why, okay. Or if it's like, hey, you got to put in this many hours. If you want to do 2 at a time or 8 at a time, that's up to you, but here's the requirements.